folks, welcome to another edition of the Wholly Irregular ECY Shedcast, broadcast from the shed at Eden Cottage Yarns headquarters. And welcome. It's been a few weeks since my last episode, is that the right word? It's been a few weeks. And obviously a lot's happened in those past few weeks, and I just haven't been in the right headspace. It just didn't feel right to come on talking about yarn whilst, you know, people's basic human rights are being threatened, and we really need to be doing something about it. And you know, it just feels inappropriate, really, to have done that. So yeah, we've just been sort of quietly doing what we do. I strongly believe in supporting each other and lifting other people up and promoting other people and other businesses. I've always believed that, and I've always loved working with other people and promoting them. So it's something that I'm really passionate about, and I hope that going forward there can be more support and more promotion, and yeah, certainly in terms of Black Lives Matter, I wholeheartedly support it. It's just so important. And you know, how is this still happening in this day and age? We need to deal with it. And yeah, it's just devastating, isn't it? When you sort of learn and you read and you listen to what people are saying, it's hard, it's painful, and it's heartbreaking, and we must deal with it as a society. I really, really strongly believe that. If you've no idea what I'm talking about, I really, really urge you to listen to people's stories, read people's stories, hear what people are telling you. However hard it is, we have to accept that this is happening, and we have to deal with it. Anyway, sorry, that got a bit angry. It does make me angry. And yeah, we seriously need to deal with the racism in this country, well, and everywhere really, but being in this country, I'm speaking about this country, and we seriously have to be moving forward and doing something about it. We need to support each other. We need to hold each other up, not push each other down. I just hate that so much. Sorry, just take a moment. So I did come on here to talk about yarn, but it's you know, as somebody running a business, I think it is important to stand by your principles and to tell people about them. I want people to know how I feel about this. And you know, if you disagree, I don't see how you can disagree with anti-racism, but if you do, then you don't have to be watching this, you don't have to be following me. That's absolutely fine. I believe that there are enough people supporting each other that we can get through this. And yes, it makes me angry, but I do feel hopeful for the future. So yeah. Should we have some yarn? Let's have some yarn. So the thing that I really actually need to talk about, and I do need to because it is my job, and you know, without actually selling yarn and running the business, that's the thing that enables me to help other people and work with other people and promote other people. So it does sort of, you know, work towards that goal by sort of coming on and selling yarn. To be honest, that's, you know, the honest truth of it. So our next update is tomorrow, Friday. Yes, it is Friday tomorrow at 8 p.m. UK time, obviously being the UK. And it's mostly Hayton double knit, but also Bowland 4-ply. So I've gone for Hayton double knit because, well, we didn't have a huge amount of hand dyed double knit in anyway, and it struck me, well, I noticed that we were selling sweater quantities of double knit, and I thought, oh, that's curious, because I like to do sweaters in double knit as well rather than 4-ply, because 4-ply is just that bit slower, isn't it? So I did a bit of poking about and I asked some questions, and it was really interesting to find out that there is definitely a shift towards making jumpers, garments in double knit rather than 4-ply. I think there seems to be a shift back away from the 4-ply and into the double knit, which totally makes sense. I'm all for it. So yeah, it seemed like a good time to do an update of double knit. Sorry, I'm just can't help it, just adjust the labels. Anyway, Hayton double knit, right, let's tell you about the yarn. Here we go. It's merino, cashmere and nylon. It's soft, it's squidgy, if you can just see the texture there, and it has a little bit of a halo, like a buttery soft halo, which is the cashmere. Excuse me, sorry. That colourway, by the way, is pollen. If you can just see it, it's got splashes of sort of like pollen. So I've done loads of different colours. I've done a lot of the semi-solids because, which is something I always do, and I've probably talked about it before. I like to do lots of semi-solids because I think they look classy, but also it means that you can do things like, say like this with contrast, or like lace or a texture or anything like that without losing the stitches in the colours. So I think, I know it's not as exciting, but it is always good to have lots of semi-solid colours, I think, and then sort of complement them with the more variegated ones. So again, like for something like this, I could have used a quite heavily variegated colour for the cuffs and the contrast, which, you know, that works well. It's more interesting for me as a dyer, and I think it gives you lots of options and lots of choice, so you know, that's a good thing, isn't it? So let me show you how it knits up. So before I came in to do this, I realised that I actually really don't have very much knitted up, and I don't have anything crocheted, I don't think, in Hayton double knit. Laura's crocheted with it, but I haven't. Anyway, so there's this hat. Now this, I think this might actually be my favourite hat ever, and you can see, can you just see how it's a tiny bit fluffy because of the cashmere, and oh, I just love this hat. It's, the pattern is After 8 by Anna Elliott, who we've worked with a lot over the years. Oh yeah, so in the pattern it's quite a short, I'm just trying to remember, it's quite a short, you know, it sits quite far back on her head. So I added some repeats. I think it's in my notes on Ravelry, to make it into a beanie, and that's a really good fit on me. So yeah, this hat sort of, you know, it's one of those things that goes everywhere with me, really. And then following on from this thought of, oh god, I've hardly made anything in Hayton double knit, that's really bad. And I thought, well, I really ought to make a garment, shouldn't I? Because I mean, this isn't Hayton double knit, and what am I going to wear when I go on the shed cast? So, I mean, I was never going to finish it in time, but I've started this which is Whitmore sweater, and the pattern is on Ravelry, and I'm using colourway Larkspur. Again, it's in my Ravelry project. So I've just separated for the sleeves. You can just see those there. And so now it's a plain body all the way down. I can't wait to try it on. It should be quite slouchy, I think. I've gone for, I think, about 5 inches of ease. So yeah, by the time it's done and blocked, I think it'll be really nice and cozy and slouchy and lovely. So hopefully the next time a Hate Double Knit update comes around and I'm back on the Shedcast, if we're still here, then I should be wearing that jumper. This one, whilst I'm on it, is made in Pendle Double Knit because it was like the next closest thing that I had, and it's called Outlined, is this pattern. Again, it's in my Ravelry notebook. It has a, what's it called, a Vickle braid around the bottom, which is quite cool. And yeah, it's just very cool. So so that's the yarn. This is hydrangea, by the way, which is what my hat's made in. There we go. I think it's that ever so slight. No, it's not. No, maybe it is a bit darker. Maybe dye lot. Anyway, it is the same colourway. So let's have a look at the colours. So that's hydrangea. Other pinks. I think this is probably the easiest way to do it. Right, these are the pinks. Let's put those that way round. Yes. So this is Stonecrop, hydrangea, and Loganberry. So they're lovely together. Of course, these two both semi-solids, and then the Loganberry, I'll pull a couple more skeins out so you can see it, is variegated. It's sort of washes of colour. It's got some red in it as well. It's not entirely pink. Okay, what shall we look at next? So I've already mentioned the pollen. Okay, and we've got other kind of what I think of as related colours. Probably not. Snow leopard. I've done loads of snow leopard because it sold out in like a couple of minutes last time on the double knit, but not on the 4-ply, which is really interesting. So I've done quite a lot more on the double knit, and I'm kind of tempted to have a go at making an actual snow leopard in it, which I think would be cool. And that was pollen. What else have we got? We've got barn door. Now, if you're in the Facebook group, the ECY Garden, you should hopefully have seen me talking about this. Oh, I hope you can see that. I'm not sure whether you can see that with the light in here. We're in front of the window, but anyway. So this is barn door, and it's sort of neutrals, and sort of greys and sandy colours and a bit of brown to it. I think that is my new love, although it is competing quite closely with Mountain Hare. This has actually come out quite subtle on this base. Like the kind of darker and more toffee colours don't stand out as much as they do on some of the other bases. But I think that's probably a good thing for double knit, to be honest, because if you're making a jumper in it, you're much less likely to get like really obvious pooling. So I really hope you can see that okay. It's a mix of browns basically, but have a look at that with barn door, and then to go with those, we've got bark and twig. So if I put them, let's put them that way around, I think that works best. So you've got twig, mountain hare, barn door and bark all together. I have no idea what you would make with them, but it would be very beautiful, whatever it would be. So let's put those back roughly where they were, and I don't get too lost. I've also done things like thunder. This is an absolute ECY classic, if we're honest. And cedar, again, classic. Pennine mist. They're nice together. And tide. Actually, that washes out the pennine mist, doesn't it? I wouldn't put these two together particularly. But then look at it with thunder, tide and thunder. You just have to watch with colours that they don't wash each other out and that they actually do work together. Oh yeah, they go together. Right, so we've got Scorched Moorland. If you've seen it named Scorched Moors, don't be alarmed. It is the same colour. I just keep forgetting what I've called it and changing by accident, apparently. But it is the same colour. So that's currently Scorched Moorland. And then, oh, this is really nice with it, Dale. So the Dale, the blue, it's got blue in it, but the blue isn't very bluey. Can you see that? It's come out quite grey. The blue is meant to be a bit more blue, and I think it would be again in future. Look how lovely they are together. But what's happened is every now and then my dyes randomly change, because they come in powdered pigment form in like a big tub, and I just get the primary colours and a couple of others, and then I mix all my own recipes out of those few basic colours. And so the most recent thing is that the black has randomly completely changed, and that affects a lot of my recipes. Well, anyone that changes is going to affect a lot of my recipes because of the way that I work. So because the black it's gone really blue, like it's not even black at all, it's like really dark blue, but it's one of those things that when you ask them about it, they're just kind of like, well, oh, whatever, you know. It's like, I don't know, maybe nobody else cares. Maybe nobody else like works to consistency or colour charts. I don't know what it is, but nobody seems to care apart from me. So because of that, that's affected absolutely loads of my recipes, and it takes ages to test and tweak them back to where they were. So like this is Pennine Mist, but at some point, once this recipe moves on to the new black, because it has, obviously it's the greyish blue, it does have black in it, I'm gonna have to completely rewrite this recipe, which I've had for years, and I'm gonna have to try and match it, really, because I do like to try and aim for consistency if I can. So anyway, that's the long story as to why the blue in Dale isn't currently very blue, but hopefully will be in future. Oh, I just heard a door. I thought I'd heard a door. So showed you all those. I think the only one I haven't shown you is A Murder of Crows. We just kind of like the name. But it's cool, this one, because it's just got tiny little splashes of dark red in. So, and it's a variegated, like black and grey with those little tiny dapples of red. So it's really cool. I like that one. And I like the idea of like contrasting that with snow leopard. That would make some really cool brioche actually, wouldn't it? Or like with loganberry, because then the loganberry pulls out the splashes of red. That would be lovely. So what other colour combinations have we got? Let's have a look. Dale and Pennine Mist, they work nicely together. You're looking for balance really, and if you're going for contrast, what I would say is, well, I suppose what I said before is just make sure contrast is fine, but you don't want one colour to wash out the other. So like, let's see what we've got. Like, oh yeah, like Bark with Scorched Moorland doesn't really work that well, because the Scorched Moorland just makes the bark look really washed out. Whereas if you used something like Twig, can you see, they work much better together. So you've got the contrast, but they just sort of support each other. Rather than sort of clashing. What else have we got? Tide. No, I've done Tide. Let's move away from that. I keep coming back to it. I must really like it. I'll tell you what I do like. Stonecrop with Bark. This is like my favourite pale colour combination, like pale pink and pale brown, basically, sort of coffee brown. Is that coffee? Roughly. I really like those together. Or you could use the stronger pink. You could use Hydrangea for that little bit more contrast. There, that works. Oh, I see again. Look, Bark and Loganberry. I wouldn't use those together. They're just not quite right. No, let's put that back there. So if I showed you Cedar with Dale, there we go, because obviously there's lots of green in the Dale, so that this brings the green out really nicely, which I like. Have I missed something under here? No, that's Barn Door. I feel like I'm missing something. That's all. Ooh, would they work together? I'm not sure about that. I don't, because that's not quite the same colour as that, so it's a bit sort of almost but not quite. Anyway, so I hope that helps. I think I've got everything. Hope that helps. We do have some other Hake and Double Knit in stock actually as well, so I can show you a few little bits. In fact, I do have the colour that I'm wearing, which is Dianthus. So I've got Dianthus here. What would you use with that? You could put Stonecrop with it. Would that work? Oh, just about, yeah. Could use those together. That's Loganberry. I love the idea of using Snow Leopard with a pink, actually. So, oh, yeah, you could do like this jumper in the Dianthus and then use Snow Leopard for the edging. Actually, in the pattern, in this particular pattern, it doesn't have these sleeves. They stop there, but I like long sleeves, so I just carried on with the contrast colour. So that's Dianthus. And there's a few skeins of Clematis, which is really nice, purpley pink. What else have we got? Ooh, we have 3 skeins of Woodland. One of my favourite greens, if not favourite overall. So look at that with Dale. So I'm just holding a box up here as well. With Dale, Scorched Moorland, possibly, and can't quite hold all of those. No, or because they don't go together. Cedar, 3 greens together. So yeah, that's Woodland. Oh, I just love it. And then there's a few other bits and bats, but the other one that we've got 3 skeins of is Oatfields, which is this lovely zingy orange. I know I say this all the time, but I really love orange, and it's quite hit and miss. But I absolutely love it, because look, that would look fine. And again, orange with snow leopard, I love that. And I do like orange and blue together, so to me that works. I know it won't for everybody. Or orange with thunder, or Oatfields with thunder. Yes, that was really nice, sort of zingy. Oh, tell you what, there are a couple of skeins as well of Murmuration, which is sort of dark ash or charcoal with really lovely rich dark blue. That would work with Tide. No, Tide's too close, you wouldn't be able to tell them apart. No, not quite. No, doesn't quite go with, I don't think, really any of these. That's a bit silly, isn't it? You could use it with, what's that, Silver Birch. I think there's only 1 skein in stock of, but if you're quick you might be able to get it. So yeah, so there's a few other little bits and bats of Hayton already in stock. So yeah, this is a good substantial update, lots of sweater quantities. So yeah, it's all good. The other yarn that we've got, which I do really need to talk about, scoot over this way, is Bowland 4-ply, which is 100% Blue Faced Leicester. Super wash, but I would hand wash it if you possibly can. Let's just move the camera around a bit, and hopefully you can see that. I've got this tripod, like really carefully balanced on a pile of boxes. So there you go, you can see most of that now. Okay, so I've gone for lots of, not intentionally, but I've gone for lots of like purpley colours and blue colours. It's just what happens, really. You just kind of like get focused on something, and then before you know it, the whole update's purple. And then Misty Woods, which totally doesn't go with any of the other colours. Just checking if you can see that. So we have Bluebell, which actually is what this colour is. Lobelia, which I don't do very often, but it's very lovely. Flowering Currant, again, don't do that often, but I just kind of felt like the right time of year to be doing it. Let's just put those back. Tan, which is dark blue. This batch is probably darker and richer. It's darker and richer than it should be, and it probably won't be quite this colour again, because this was the result of trying to tweak and match my recipe and failing, if I'm honest. But then I thought, well, it does still look nice, so that's quite a nice rich blue. And then I like these two together, Thunder and Meadow Rue. I like Meadow Rue because I know I've talked about it before, but I just really like how kind of dusky it is. And then when you see it next to like another proper pink, and it just kind of it just looks really bad, doesn't it? Yeah, don't put those together. That's Wisteria. It's a bit pinky really for Wisteria, but anyway, artistic license we shall call that. Misty Woods, which is again an ECY classic. It goes very nicely with that vase. And Loganberry just sat right there looking at me. I forgot. So I've actually done it on both of the update yarns, which wasn't really intentional, but it's such a lovely colour. And yeah, so that's come out really nice on the Bowland 4-ply. Again, I must have samples in Bowland 4-ply, but off the top of my head I can't actually think of any. Like, everything that I can think of is in Milburn 4-ply rather than Bowland. I think I probably certainly don't have any recent samples in Bowland 4-ply, because we got the Milburn 4-ply and just basically all of my efforts went into that, and so I have piles and piles of Milburn samples, but not necessarily all the hand-dyed ones. So I don't have anything to show you in this knitted up.